The title of today's lesson, Represent Data and Solve Problems. The purpose of this lesson is for you to solve 1- and 2-step problems about data represented in bar graph. Look at these groups of dots. What do you see on the first group of dots? There are 6 dots, and we can say there are 2 groups of 3 dots. What about the second group? What do you see? There are 2 groups of 4, which makes it 8. Or you might see there are 4 groups of 2. By counting by 2s, you get to 8 dots. So, how many more dots were in the third image than in the second image? In comparison, as you can see, the third has 2 more dots added to the second image. So if the second image, we concluded, there are 8. And the third one added 2 more. 8 plus 2 is equal to 10. We are going read aloud a book, Last Stop on Market Street. We are going to see how CJ learns from Grandma how to see things in the world.
Last Stop on Market Street. Written and read by Matt De La Pena. Pictures by Christian Robinson. For Luna and her 2 grandmas, Ronnie and Grace, Matt De La Pena. For Nana, Christian Robinson. CJ pushed through the church doors, skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain, which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. He ducked under his Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus and all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana told him. "Don't you see that big one drinking through a straw?" CJ looked for a long time but never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals, watched rain patter against the windshield of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his dad. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what do we need a car for? We got a bus that breathes fire, and old Mr. Dennis, who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged, and the doors swung open. "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked. He pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear, placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a great big smile and a good afternoon. She made sure CJ did the same. The bus lurched forward and stopped, lurched forward and stopped. Nana hummed as she knit. "How come we always gotta go here after church?" CJ said. "Miguel and Colby never have to go nowhere." "I feel sorry for those boys," she told him. "They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the Sunglass Man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat." CJ stared out the window feeling sorry for himself. He watched cars zip by on either side, watched a group of boys hop curbs on bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. "How come that man can't see?" "Boy, what do you know about seeing?" Nana told him. "Some people watch the world with their ears." "That's a fact. Their noses, too," the man said, sniffing at the air. "That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, ma'am." Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. 2 older boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood in back. "Sure wish I had one of those," he said. Nana set down her knitting. "What for? You got the real live thing sitting across from you. Why don't you ask the man if he'll play us a song?" CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to sing. "To feel the magic of music," the blind man whispered, "I like to close my eyes." Nana closed hers too. So did CJ and the spotted dog. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus, out of the busy city. He saw sunset colors swirling over crashing waves, saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky, saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full and he was lost in the sound, and the sound gave him the feeling of magic. The song ended and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boys in back. Nana glanced at the coin in CJ's palm. CJ dropped it in the man's hat. "Last stop on Market Street," Mr. Dennis called. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. Crumbling sidewalks and broken down doors, graffiti-tagged windows and boarded-up stores. He reached for his Nana's hand. "How come it's always so dirty over here?" She smiled and pointed to the sky. "Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what's beautiful." CJ saw the perfect rainbow arcing over their soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found beautiful where he never even thought to look. He looked all around them again, at the bus rounding the corner out of sight, and the broken street lamp still lit up bright, and the stray cat shadows moving across the wall. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, "I'm glad we came." He thought his Nana might laugh her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, "Me too, CJ. Now come on."
We are going to create a bar graph with the data in a problem. The purpose of this activity is to help you understand how to create a bar graph that includes features that help communicate the data clearly. In Ms. Berry's class, there are 20 kids in her classroom. 7 of those students take the bus home. 4 students would walk home. The rest of her kids would go home by car. Represent the data given on a bar graph. First, we need to find out what we know. 20 kids total. 7 takes bus, 4 walks home. The rest of the students take the car home. Second steps, we need to calculate the last data. We know Ms. Berry has a total of 20 kids. 7 plus 4 is equal to 11, 20, 11 is equal to 9. Therefore, 9. Second steps, we need to calculate the last data. We know Ms. Berry has a total of 20 kids. 7 plus 4 is equal to 11, 20, 11 is equal to 9. Therefore, 9 kids rode the car home. Now that we have 3 sets of data, we start creating our bar graph. Remember, a bar graph will look like the image on the left. So, using the data we collect, draw your bar graph. Don't forget the label and the title of the graph. Without the title and label, we would not know what your bar graph represents. Pause this video and start creating your bar graph. Compare your graph to this graph. Is it somewhat similar? Titles on the top of your graph. Label each category and give each side a title too. So, based on the graph you've drawn, how many more students take the car home than those walked home? That's correct, we would subtract from those car riders, 9, to those walk home, 4, which is 5 more people ride the car than walked home. As you can see, once we create our visual presentation of given data, we can compute more information. If someone wants to know more about which categories have the greatest impact on how students get home, or how many people took the bus than taking a car, read this graph. This graph shows students' favorite place to read. How many more students chose the park than home as their favorite place to read? True or false, more students like to read at the school or library than at the park.